Have you ever been part of a group where things got a little too out of hand? Picture this, an online group. No faces, no real names, just a bunch of teenagers looking to kill some time. They were just ordinary kids, navigating the minefield of adolescence, seeking an outlet, a refuge from the pressures of everyday life. The group was a melting pot of personalities. Some were quiet, others boisterous. Some were bookish, while others were athletes. Yet in this online space, they were all equals, united by their shared need for a little escapism. And what better way to escape than to weave tales of mischief and mayhem? It began simply enough. A little white lie here, a tall tale there. Small stories of misadventures and pranks played on unsuspecting friends and family. The more outrageous the story, the more laughs it garnered, the more camaraderie it built. The thrill of crafting a believable story, of pulling the wool over the eyes of their peers, was intoxicating. They were storytellers, spinning their web of lies, and the group was their captive audience. In the beginning, it was all in good fun. They were just stories, after all. Fictional accounts of misdeeds that were never committed. The group laughed, they bonded, they became closer. The tales became a shared secret, a private joke that only they were in on. And so, the group grew. The tales became more elaborate, more daring. The teenagers, caught up in the thrill of their deception, didn't realize they were pushing boundaries, crossing lines. They were creating a world of their own, a world built on lies, a world that was about to spiral out of control. And while it started as a harmless prank, they had no idea of the storm they were about to unleash. As the weeks passed, the tales grew darker, and the line between fiction and reality began to blur. The teenagers, once masters of their digital domain, found themselves caught in a web of their own making. The stories, initially harmless fibs and playful tales, began to evolve, morphing into narratives that were more elaborate, more intricate, and far more sinister. As the narrators, they reveled in the power of their words, painting vivid images in the minds of their unsuspecting audience. The tales progressed from harmless mischief to darker deeds. Stories of pranks and petty thefts gave way to narratives of betrayal, sabotage, and even violence. The boundaries of their imagination seemed to stretch with each passing day, allowing for an escalating parade of malevolence. The group members, initially amused and entertained, began to grow concerned. The tales were no longer just stories, or so it seemed. The line that once separated truth from fiction seemed to have been erased, replaced by a chilling ambiguity. The teenagers, who had once laughed at their own audacity, were now silent, their keyboards echoing with the gravity of their words. The stakes had been raised, and the game was no longer just a game. It had transformed into an arena where the line between the storytellers and their stories had blurred. The teenagers were no longer just spinning tales. They were living them. The digital world they had created was as real to them as the world outside their screens. Questions began to arise among the group members. Were these stories still just tales, or had they become a reality? Was it all just a product of their vivid imaginations, or had they stumbled upon a darker truth? The uncertainty was palpable, the fear real. The once innocent game had taken a sinister turn, and there was no going back. The teenagers had become prisoners of their own narratives, trapped in a world of their own creation, where the line between fiction and reality was no longer clear. And then, just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. The once jovial and close-knit group began to crumble under the weight of their own fabrications. The bonds that once held them together were now the very chains that shackled them to their monstrous tales. It all started subtly. A misplaced accusation here, a distrustful glance there. As the tales took on a life of their own, the group members started to turn on each other. The once playful banter was replaced by hushed whispers and stifling silence. The laughter that once echoed in their online chats was now a distant memory, replaced by the deafening sound of doubt and suspicion. The teenagers, once the puppet masters of their own narratives, now felt like marionettes tangled in the strings of their own deceit. Their stories, once a source of amusement, now felt like lead weights pulling them under a sea of their own making. They were trapped in their own labyrinth of lies, the exit shrouded in a fog of their own creation. As the group fractured, the teenagers found themselves isolated. The unity that once defined them was now a relic of the past. The group chats, once filled with camaraderie and shared tales, were now a battlefield of pointed accusations and heated arguments. Each story, each lie, had become a ticking time bomb, waiting to explode and rip the group apart. The tension was palpable, the air thick with anticipation. The once harmless tales had morphed into dangerous weapons, aimed at the very heart of the group. The teenagers were no longer the heroes of their own stories. They had become the villains, their tales of mischief now haunting them like specters in the night. The thrill of the game had been replaced by the chill of reality. Their harmless fun had turned into a nightmare. In the blink of an eye, their harmless fun had turned into a nightmare. They say every action has a reaction. But for these teenagers, the reaction was far beyond what they could have ever imagined. The ripples of their tales spread far and wide, causing a wave of panic and fear that consumed the whole community. The stories they spun, once entertaining and harmless, had morphed into dark tales that had everyone on edge. The whispers of their deeds traveled through the grapevine, causing mothers to clutch their children a little tighter, friends to eye each other suspiciously, and everyone to question what they thought they knew about their neighbors. The fallout within the group was just as catastrophic. What was once camaraderie, a shared sense of fun and adventure, had turned into a pit of guilt and regret. The thrill of spinning tales and misleading the group had quickly lost its charm as they saw the havoc they had wreaked. The teenagers, who once reveled in their stories, now wished they could take it all back. But what's done was done. The words once spoken couldn't be unsaid. The fear once instilled couldn't be soothed. The trust once broken couldn't be mended so easily. They were left to face the aftermath of their actions. A community in turmoil, friends turned against each other, and their own conscience bearing the weight of the damage they had done. The regret was sharp and bitter, a constant reminder of the chaos they had caused. They had thought it was all a game, a harmless prank, but the reality was far from it. Their stories, their lies, had real-world consequences. Every day, they had to face the people they had fooled, the people they had scared. Every day, they had to live with the knowledge that they were responsible for the fear and suspicion that now hung over the community like a dark cloud. They had started a fire they couldn't put out, and now they were dealing with the consequences. The repercussions of their actions, once a distant thought, now a harsh reality. They had learned the hard way that words, even those spoken in jest, can have a profound impact. As the dust settled, they were left with a harsh reality and some valuable lessons. In the aftermath, the teenagers found themselves standing in the debris of their own making, their jest turned into a storm. And from this wreckage, they pulled out lessons, some hard-earned, some bitter, but all valuable. The first lesson was about honesty. They learned that honesty, though sometimes difficult, is the cornerstone of trust in any relationship. Their fibs and fabrications, though initially amusing, soon spiraled into a web of deceit that was not only hard to maintain, but also broke the trust of those around them. They realized that honesty is not just about telling the truth. It's about being real with yourself and others about who you are, what you want, and what you need to live your most authentic life. The second lesson was about the dangers of trolling. They had started out as pranksters, harmless in their intentions, but soon found themselves on a slippery slope. The thrill of the game took over, making them lose sight of the line between fun and harm. They learned that trolling, while it may seem like innocent fun, can quickly escalate into something more sinister, causing distress and potentially harm to others. The third lesson was about the impact of our actions on others. In their quest for laughter, they had forgotten that their stories were not just words on a screen, but had real-world implications. They saw firsthand how their tales of misbehavior had upset, offended, and even scared people. They learned that every action, every word has a ripple effect, impacting others in ways they may not even realize. In the end, the teenagers were changed. They understood the errors of their ways and committed themselves to making amends, to learning from their mistakes, and to growing as individuals. And so, they learned the hard way that some pranks can have far-reaching consequences. But it's never too late to learn, change, and grow. Y'all, we're wrapping up here, but don't you go anywhere just yet. Show some love, hit that like button. Fancy more content like this? Go on, subscribe and let that bell icon ring so you won't miss a beat. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, sharing is caring. Until next time, stay tuned.